Welcome to the 24Astro podcast. This is the first episode I'm making here on this channel, and I want to talk about my journey with astrology. This will be a one-take podcast. Feels a bit scary. I won't edit this, and we'll just see where it goes. Because I love astrology and I love speaking about astrology, and I want this to come off as a vibe like you're talking to a friend. And I think it could be a bit fun to talk about my journey. I discovered astrology when I had my Saturn return. So I was 30 years old, I think. Yeah, I think 30 years old. And I knew nothing about astrology. And someone, a spiritual friend, said to me, "Do you know if it is your Saturn return? Because you sound like you have a lot going on." And she knew my age. And I didn't know what it meant, but I just felt something in me thinking that, what is that? I want to know what that is. So I read up on it. And that opened up the world of astrology. So I read up on Saturn. So it was my first archetype that I looked into. And it was so overwhelming. I didn't understand what Saturn in Pisces meant. I didn't understand what the house were. It was just so much information, of course. But it was something intriguing still about reading up on it. So it stuck with me, and I felt like I wanted to know more. And it just was this black hole that I fell down into. And I watched, I think, like almost all videos on YouTube on my placements. And I just hammered them in. And I didn't have any order on how I learned about it. I just chose a planet and watched that on YouTube. And then I chose a zodiac sign with the planet and then watched that. And I watched 100 different videos. And I felt I watched videos until I felt like my mind was completely scrambled. And then I paused, and then I came back, and then I paused, and then I came back. And I just spent so much time reading up on astrology. And then I got my first reading a few months later, and it was good. But it felt like it didn't reach the core. It felt very general. But I kept going into astrology. I kept learning more and more and more. And with the same strategy still. I still watched all the videos on the different placements. And then it opened up the world of understanding that there is different house systems. And they are different. There's tropical and sidereal, and I tried to understand them both, but that just meddled with my understanding even more. So I decided to just stick with tropical astrology, with Placidus house system, because that was what I was studying at first. And then eventually I found some people that I really resonated with. I found that they had something that really spoke to me as truth. And I got readings by them as well. And I even went to some astrology schools. I started one and I didn't like it at all, so I changed. And then it kept going like that. And as time went by, I started to take small things from all of them. I took some things from esoteric astrology because I felt like it was too flat with the tropical or the mainstream astrology. I wanted to add depth to my understanding because there was always questions in my mind about, but why is it like this? And I felt like esoteric astrology explained the why. And then maybe a half a year later, after I've discovered astrology, I started to expand my understanding in form that I wanted to do readings for my friends. Because I just felt like this is giving me so much. Now I want to, you know how it goes, just wanting to just talk to other people and explain why this is so great, you have to do this as well. But I did it, even that they didn't ask. I asked them, can I do a reading for you? Do you want me to do a reading for you? And my friends are nice people, so they were like, of course. And some people found it very helpful, but it was very also tricky to do it like that because it was some people that were not into spirituality at all. So it was a bit far-fetched, and it made me have to think 3 steps ahead, that I had to explain everything even more abstract. Because if someone is too critical or analytical and identified with their ego, maybe they will be closed off to astrology. So that was a bit challenging, but I learned a lot from doing that. And then maybe a year and a half passed and I was still into astrology, reading up on it all the time, viewing different videos and trying to learn as much as I could. I also had started to use AI to understand my own chart deeper, and also incorporated shadow work and really be into Carl Jung and his psychology, which is basically psychology with a touch of spirituality as well. And I found his teachings so resonant for me. And I started to incorporate the two. So I did shadow work and my quest for individuation, which is something that Carl Jung's psychology strive for. I viewed the chart of astrology as a way to understand the psyche. I realize I have to take some pauses and to breathe because I talk so quickly. And I'm not going to edit this, so I will leave this in. Okay. So I started to do it a bit more on the psychological level, but also incorporating still different types of methods. And I think it was at this point, also 1.5 years, that I started my channel. And I started the YouTube channel because I always loved YouTube. Since I was a girl, 15 or 14 years old, with social anxiety, I loved YouTube. It was my savior, really. And I watched vloggers and I watched all the old school, really like OG YouTubers. So YouTube was always close to my heart, and I found it to be so freeing and attractive that whoever could talk and be heard all across the globe. It was my love for the collective. As I am an Aquarius sun and Mars in Aquarius, I always find the collective, interest in the collective. Also, since my Pisces moon and I have stellium in Pisces, it's something with me experiencing the collective that's been very, attractive. So it's been something that really called my soul. And also feeling like I did not fit into the society where I lived, and I felt like more resonance towards other people, and YouTube was a great way to reach other people with different mindsets. So I was on YouTube all the time, and I always wanted to be able to do YouTube, but I didn't have the courage at that point. But then something happened in my private life, because I don't know how much of my non-astrology things I should talk about, but I do have a life path that is very focused on health and nutrition, and I had a goal of having a practice, and it didn't work out physically, and I knew that I needed to do it online. So I had an experience that really made me hit rock bottom, and that gave me the courage to start YouTube, because I felt like I have nothing to lose now. So I started the astrological channel, and that was so healing for me, since I do have a history of social anxiety, and also having this feeling of not being understood, also having Chiron in the 11th house, wounding to the collective, and feeling just that I don't get understood, feeling like people don't understand me, I'm not good at formulating myself sometimes. I have that childhood thing, but I still know that I love talking, I love words, I love studying symbolism. So I have like two different split parts of myself, and doing YouTube was so nourishing for my soul, for this part that felt like no one understands me, and then I get understood in the symbolic interpretation of the zodiac signs, for example, and I feel every time I still get a bit surprised when people say that it resonates what I'm saying, because I have so much self-doubt and criticism towards this part still. It comes up like a ghost and is there in the background from time and time again. But the stronger side now is the one that just loves to talk and loves to analyze and formulate different concepts and communicate. So that part is taking over more and more. And with that experience of starting YouTube and putting myself out there to be understood on a larger scale, it's helped me take astrology even to another level, as I feel even more motivated to understand, because I want to be able to communicate it. And that is the beauty, because I have this drive of being of service, and I have a MC in Chiron. No, I mean I have Chiron conjunct my MC in Virgo. So the service part is very strong and important for me. So with that said, I started YouTube and loved it. I really loved it. Even though it was very triggering and hard for me, I still loved it. And I still do love it, but I had to do it very slowly. I did some videos, I pushed myself, I was nervous, and when I did it, I really had to self-regulate, so I did not self-sabotage in my own life, because I was doing something very triggering. And then I continued and uploaded some videos now and then. And then in 2024 in December, I realized that my birth chart certificate was not correct. And that was an eye-opening experience for me, because I found a notebook from my mother where she documented down the exact time stamp from my birth, which was very unique, that she did that. I don't think a lot of women would even have that in their mind. And if I think about it, it's very ironic. But when I discovered that, I realized that my birth chart was wrong, in a sense that some planets were in different houses. And that made me question astrology, because I identified so much with the Placidus chart, and it made me almost have like an existential crisis when it came to astrology, that I felt like, what can I even trust? Because I felt so much resonance to the planets that I had, because I was trying to see it from the lens of everything that I was studying. And then when I think it was like 4 or 5 planets shifted to the second house, and that made me really confused again. Just like in the beginning of my astrology journey, I felt very confused and not sure of what is even true. And then I let it sit. I didn't do astrology for maybe 2 months or so, and I came back and started to see the different house systems and explored with Vedic astrology as well to see what is true for me. And I think in hindsight that this was a blessing. Of course, everything happens for a reason. It made me detach from astrology and made me view myself even deeper, because now I had so many different systems to analyze myself from, that I think I understand astrology even more profound now. And I've come to terms with that I'm using whole sign, house system, and tropical astrology as a way to be sure that everyone's time is correct, everyone's house placements is correct. Because if you use Placidus, it can differ a lot depending on the minute. But whole signs is a bit more secure to use. So that is the system, house system I use now. And I feel good with it. I've done it now and used that for, I think, 3 months. And it's also something that I felt resonated a lot when I used the different systems, because I know and notice that I did stick to Placidus in the beginning because it was the first thing that I learned, and I felt identification with the placements, and I felt a resistance to changing because I didn't want to get confused again. So I did know that there was some bias there. And since that happened, I've gone even deeper into astrology and study a bit of ancient astrology. So I still feel very dedicated to the astrology path, and I even now opened up to doing astrology readings for other people, and that is something that I feel like is so rewarding and so fun. And I just love being of service, because I really feel like I channel when I do that. So this was my journey in a nutshell, you could say. And I hope you enjoyed listening to this, and I have a lot of ideas for future episodes. I want to do the houses in different episodes. I want to do one house in one episode, and I want to do the zodiac signs, I want to do the planets. I just feel like it would be so fun to do really an episode dedicated to each, to delve into them and do it free-flowing. So just like picking a subject and then sitting down and see what comes up and discussing whatever comes my way. I think that would be very fun, and that is really the intention for this podcast, I would say, to not have to think too much about my camera when I film. I just want to be able to sit down and close my eyes and talk about astrology, and whatever comes up. And this is kind of like the same way that I do the readings now also. I just sit down and see what comes up, and it's so nice. I love it. So I look forward to doing these podcast episodes, and I'll see you in the next video.